Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming on by tonight. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. Thank you. Hello, Luna. Hello, Ethan. Hopefully, both of you are doing well. Just making sure everything is working. Of course, when I decided to switch over to YouTube today, my stuff decided to break. Let me just post real quick that I'm live on YouTube. Stuff broke a little bit today, too. Yeah, I feel it. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and let's test out this camera, which I am nervous about. Okay, there we go. Hello. That is way too bright. Okay, hold on. There we go. That's better. Okay. Let's go ahead and... it's okay to... Whoa. Hello. Okay. Alright, so yes, we have a camera now. We have a backdrop as well, although it's not very fancy. Yeah, so let's go ahead and just get into it. Talking with screen, there we go. Okay. Let's make this a little bit, oops, no, not a little bit bigger. Like that is fine. Okay. So, today we were blessed with the fact that we get some more information about Werewolf the Apocalypse, which I am very, very excited about. So we're just going to go through and take a look at what the article says. So we've got Werewolf the Apocalypse tribes and renown. I'll just go ahead and read it out just so everybody can hear it. Oh, excuse me. All right. The world is on fire. Global temperatures increasing, seawater levels rising and acidifying. Yeah, I guess that's how you would say that. Political powers in an infinite cycle of saber rattling and war, endlessly creating refugees with militarized authoritarian police forces victimized with abandon. Victimized with abandon. Unshakable addiction to fossil fuels strangles the world's breath, even as the energy companies reap the record profits for resources extracted from the planet we all share. The billionaires are in a race to chop down the last trees with their own private hatchets for their own personal gain. Gaia, the world spirit, is dying or dead. The only creature left who can do anything about it, the only monsters with any capacity to act, are her chosen champions, the Garou, werewolves. So, yeah. So this is interesting just because, for folks that don't know, sorry, I'm just moving the microphone a little bit here. For folks that don't know, Werewolf the Apocalypse, the original game, takes place like 3 minutes before midnight, basically. So it's you combating against the forces of the Weaver and the Worm, or rather the Weaver, and trying to hold back the impending doom that will come to the planet. So you are the warriors of the planet, is the best way to put it. But yeah, that's the high overview of it. So from what it seems like with this, that has already happened, but we'll move on. We'll get more of the article in. Once they fought to avert the apocalypse, now in the 5th edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse, they struggle to survive it. It's saying here, if you're familiar with legacy editions of Werewolf, this is a heads up. It accepts noteworthy changes in both systems and setting. Werewolf 5th is a continuation of those, is not a continuation of those earlier editions. It is a reimagining of Werewolf built on the core themes of the original game. So this is important. Werewolf the Apocalypse kind of suffers the same fate that a lot of World of Darkness stuff does, which is the fact that it was all written in the early 90s and early to mid 90s, and approached things with a very different viewpoint, with a very different way of doing things. So things like racism, cultural insensitivity, things like that, those were a lot more rampant in older editions of Werewolf. So with the changes, it's gotten a lot better. Just off the cuff from what I've seen, it's gotten a lot better. So, tribes and patron spirits. I do love this take on werewolves. It's nice to have them a purpose other than destruction or just fighting vampires. Yeah, I do too. So with how things work with Werewolf the Apocalypse in the whole World of Darkness as a whole is they don't directly fight just vampires. They're kind of against everything that's destroying the earth, which the vampires take part in. But their whole thing is fighting back against the forces that are killing Gaia. So a lot of their stuff is very akin to like eco-terrorism and things like that. So completely smashing corporate structures and things like that. That's most of what they do. The Werewolf the Apocalypse is like, if people like Vampire the Masquerade for the intrigue and the personal horror and everything else like that, Werewolf the Apocalypse has personal horror too, but you're also straight up fighting monsters and things like and with this, like, you are the monsters now, and you know, if Guy is dead or dying, what do you do? So tribes and patron spirits. Something all werewolves agree on is that the world is in a disastrous state. What they don't agree on, though, is what to do about it, and the what represents one of the many important decisions a player makes about the Garou character. Their tribe, in the simplest terms, a tribe is any number of werewolves who are pledged to a patron spirit. Tribe is akin to the clans of vampire, a social unit, but also a way of looking at things and a call to action on handling them. In a game design, certain verbs are define the cultures as an expectation of gameplay. If you want to take a fight to the enemy or solve mysteries or inspire fear and confidence, that's the tribe for you. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it too. It's very interesting. It also makes it so that there were problematic tribes, and this gives them a way of shunting them, basically. And we'll kind of go over that in a minute here. So now we want to look at the tribes. So I'll just go down the list. Some of these have already been in the game. Some of them are new. So Black Furies, they've already been in the game. They will likely change, but they were mainly female. And there was some racist elements to them originally. That is likely different now, just on pure assumption and by what they do. So there's the Black Furies. Their verbs, things that you would akin to their tribe, are avenge, overcome, dismantle, and demolish. So, which is pretty accurate to what they were too. They were badass warriors. Mainly female badass warriors. So, kind of makes sense. Also makes sense with their patron saint being the Gorgon. Their renown being glory. This kind of all checks out. This is different to the way that they've kind of organized things. But it does give you a lot clearer picture, especially if you've come from like something like Vampire, where they did the same thing, where they broke down, and I'm sure in the book itself, they'll have a lot more breakdown of like what you can expect the clans to do, what kind of things you're going to see from them. So this is a nice little breakdown of what you could kind of expect. So next one is the Bone Gnars. Also their glyphs over here. They're kind of crude in a way. But again, that's kind of the point. These are the Garu have been on Earth for a lot longer than anything else has. So their tribes, everything else like that, they're ancient. And they have to have that feel of this servant of the earth kind of thing, which is something I really enjoy. All right, so the Bone Gnars, their verbs are infiltrate, pilfer, eavesdrop, and witness. Their patron saint is the rat. Their renown is honor. These guys were already in the game before as well. Not really any sort of problematic element to them, at least that I know of. But this kind of makes sense. The Bone Gnars are made up of the outcasts a lot of times. So they're just a group of misfits. It's probably the best way to put it. But they do really well on the things that, like, they may not be the strongest, but they take advantage of the things that they are good at, because so much of the Garu is based around your strength. They kind of take that and go in the opposite direction of it a little bit, which is something that I really like. Children of Gaia, another one that was in there before. Discover, discern, heal, and puzzle out. Their patron spirit is a unicorn, and their renown is wisdom. Children of Gaia were also in there. The Children of Gaia were kind of a catch-all, as far as what they did and things like that. So this is a lot. It's kind of the same thing with them being more progressive. The Children of Gaia were a more progressive group in Werewolf, so giving them these tenets makes sense. You like the Children of Gaia? Yeah, they are cool. There's some other really cool ones in here too. Okay, next one is the Fianna. The Fianna are also originally from the game as well. Reclaim, cultivate, nurture, protect. Their patron spirit is the stag, and their renown is glory. So the Fianna were already in the game as well. They are mainly of Irish and that region descent. Irish, Celtic, things like that. They are warriors of the earth. They also had a thing where they had things like bards and stuff like that have more of a place in their societies. So, didn't mean to put that up there. So that's more of what they are. They were more based around song and things like that, which again is kind of culture and sensitivity. That has been changed. It seems like they are more the earth nurturers and things like that, which they kind of were before. There's another group that is not in here, which I will throw out what my guess is of what happened to them. Hello, Asher. You like this one too? Yeah, the Fianna are cool too. Let's just keep going down the list. The Gale Stalkers. These guys are new. So their core tenets are track, ambush, pursue, and harry. Their spirit is the North Wind, and their renown is honor. Let's get used to the YouTube layout. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but I made the switch over to YouTube because one, they take less of what you get. They do better about promoting, and they give you a lot easier avenues to progress and things like that, and to become more of a mainstay on their platform. So I liked that a little bit better. Plus, with what Twitch is doing, I think it's just going to continue to be difficult. But yeah, I wanted to make the switch because I thought it would be a good plan. But as I was saying, with the Gale Stalkers, these guys are new. I am going to throw out some guesses about them. So another cultural insensitivity thing. The original Werewolf was written. There was a tribe that was mainly populated by indigenous peoples of the Americas. The problem came with the name that they chose, which is a word that is not supposed to be said, and I'm not going to say it, but it is a word that is not supposed to be said aloud, but it's basically bad things. Saying it would call bad things towards you is the belief. But again, it's not something that white people should be writing about and putting into a game. So the majority of the people that have voiced their, like the majority of the indigenous people have voiced their concern about it, have told people, like, don't use that word. And what I'm guessing is that Werewolf probably got new writers and probably got sensitivity readers at the very least that are of the indigenous population to go over this. And I'm guessing that's what the Gale Stalkers are, is probably a new version of that, which what they're describing is cool, and it probably will do a good job of making a tribe based around a group of indigenous people feel cool and feel like something that would be enjoyable to play, without blatant racism. Like that. It's gonna make this. Let's see. That's definitely bad. I've been looking. Not sure what's for me. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It was something that, again, the original World of Darkness was made of very different people. Well, it wasn't even World of Darkness, it was White Wolf. The original group of people that played a lot of these games, that did this stuff, that wrote this stuff, were very, very different from the people that do it now. And the values of the people who do it now are much more concrete, and they are more about being progressive, getting new people into the game, getting a game that is modern in setting. And that's why this exists. And like, that's why in everything that has been past production of World of Darkness, anything that has come out has to go through the World of Darkness team in order for it to be published with their name on it. If there's anything problematic in it, they will shoot it down immediately. So that has been the precedent that they have set, and that's why Vampire, Hunter, things like that have been so much different than their older counterparts. And when they have made mistakes, because when they have made mistakes about cultures and things like that, they've gone back. They put a group in Hunter that's a group that assaults and hurts the general population, and it's not well received to have them in the game as somebody that you would play as. But when they wrote it, they didn't know that, so they released a whole apology letter that was written in what do they speak in Brazil? Is it Portuguese? I think it's Portuguese. No, that wouldn't make any sense. What do they speak in Brazil? Hold on. Oh, it is Portuguese. I was right. Okay. Yeah, I met one of the old guard LARPers at a game shop a while back, and it was the most cringe thing that's ever happened to me. Things they were talking about missing. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing you're going to find in D&D. It is. It's the same thing you're going to find in all games. There's a lot of people that feel like that games are quote-unquote woke and all this other stuff, when in reality, it's just bringing it into a modern setting so that more people can enjoy it. The people that talk about missing things that made the game restrictive are assholes and are not helping things. So it really doesn't matter what they say, because they can play the game that they want to play, and that's well and good. They can sit there with their shitty buddies and play the game that they want to play, but they ain't gonna find a home in the new stuff. They're just not. So, you know, which is a lot of what the companies that make games nowadays have been trying to do, is push these people out, saying like, you can play any game you want to play, which has been true forever. You can play any game that you want to play, but we are not going to have bigoted viewpoints put into our games. They're just not. If you want to sit at home and play your racist ass game with whatever the fuck you want, absolutely you can do that. But the majority of the people who do this won't. And if you try to do that in a public setting where there's people that you don't know, they probably aren't going to want to play with you. Then again, they also took a step away from me when I saw my pentagram pendant. Yeah, it's always interesting to me how the people that have these viewpoints, like, reject a lot of other things. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially in, like, Vampire and stuff like that, where it's, like, Vampire is not a game that I would identify as any religious group whatsoever. In fact, they play on religious groups' fanaticism a lot. But anyway, so yes, Gale Stalkers, if that's what they are, because I don't know for certain, if that is what they are, cool. Sounds like a cool way to approach it. Probably going to be a cool group to play. Ghost Council, I think these are new. Let me look. So the Ghost Council are also new. Let's see what they are about. Travel, solve, subvert, and unearth. They have the Horned Serpent, and their renown is wisdom. I don't know what they are supposed to represent. I'm not sure who they are, if they are replacing somebody or if they're just a whole new group, which they might be a whole new group. Again, with what Werewolf is doing is remaking, and they even said it, it's not just a copy of the old stuff. They're just a reimagination of the universe entirely. So we don't know who these guys are. But it does give a nice roguish element to roguish detective-y kind of feel to it, which is something that was in the game prior, but not to the degree that this group could possibly be. Ghost Council sounds awesome. It also sounds like one of the new History Channel original Ghost Hunters. I mean, you could do it that way. Sure, why not? Okay, next group was already in the game. Glasswalkers. Their core tenets are research, build, hack, and repurpose. Their creature is the Spider, which is interesting, and their core renown is wisdom. The Glasswalkers are unique in that they are the only werewolves that don't typically live off. Most werewolves kind of live off the grid, kind of live off on their own. Because in the older editions of Werewolf, if a human was around you when you were in your Garu form, they would start to get sick and messed up and things like that. So most of the Garu stay away from humanity. They kind of live off on their own in different groups and things like that, or they live isolated in the woods. If depending on what group they are. But the Glasswalkers were unique in that they also, so a big thing about Werewolf is that they would make these places of power, the cairns, these cairns, and the cairns are most typically out in nature. Case in point, it's a group of warriors of Gaia. These were holy places that were out in the forests and things like that the werewolves could use to communicate with Gaia, recenter themselves, everything else like that. They were important places. The Glasswalkers make their own cairns, and they're in the cities, like on top of skyscrapers and things like that. So that's kind of a difference. And again, that may not be the case now, but that is the Glasswalkers. That is what they did. You got a BRB? Okay, sounds good. All right. Let's see. So keep moving down. The Red Talons. They were also already in the game. Their core tenets are Ruin, Ward, Reduce, and Purge. Their creature is the Griffin, and their renown is Honor. The Red Talons were unique in that they didn't shift back from... They stayed as wolves most of the time. That was their thing. They would mostly be wolves. And they could still shift into... So the Garu have different forms that they take. There's the human form, which they use to walk around and everything else like that. There's the form right after that, which name I'm forgetting. But it's kind of like a souped up human. They're a little bit stronger. After that is the wolf form. After that is the larger wolf form. So big, dire wolf. And then the last one is the warrior form. And that's 9 foot tall. Let me find you what they look like. Kind of show you a nice... here you go. Yeah, so they got... Oops. Back. So the Garu... There you go. Okay, so these are the different stages of the Garu. You have Hamid, Glabro, Krenos, that's its name. Krenos form, Hispo, and Lupus. So Glabro is taller, bigger, beefier. The Krenos form is the warrior form. They don't hang out in this form. This form is solely for killing things. So they don't typically roll around in this form very often. It's 9 foot tall, 8 to 9 feet tall. Muscles are described as being made of like steel, like, you know, steel cord and things like that, like what you see on cranes. You like the Red Talons? They are cool. I can kind of go into them a little bit more and get some more info on them, but that's what they are. They're mostly the wolf. They mostly go around as wolves. They do communicate with the other Garu. The Garu can communicate with each other all the time. So, like, that's not a problem. As a closet furry, I'm loving. Yeah, it's basically what it is. Like, let me find you a cooler. They get really fucking big. Actually, what am I doing? We can... So this picture is accurate to what the size. It's kind of hard to see. Hold on. Yeah, that's there. That's fine. No. Oh, anyway, they're big. There you go. That's probably the best one. So yeah, this is about accurate. So they are about 9 feet tall, just made of muscle and almost indestructible. They take a whole lot of fucking damage to go down. So they're pretty cool. But their sole purpose is killing. The Garu form is pretty much reserved for just that. Or the Krenos form is, Krenos form is reserved for just that. But yes, the Red Talons, they usually start as wolves too. They're not humans. So in Werewolf the Apocalypse, you don't necessarily have to be a human to be a werewolf. You can be a wolf and still be a werewolf. You would just have a different kind of consciousness. Because you're not made into a werewolf. It's not like vampire where you're turned or anything else like that. You're just always that way, and eventually you wake up and realize it. I think probably the most apt, like, the apt comparison from modern media is like Twilight, really. Like, the werewolves in Twilight aren't bitten or anything. They're just that way. That's how these guys are too. They wake up one day and they're able to do these things, but they start as just wolves or humans. All right, next one is the Shadow Lords. Their main tenets are envision, plan, scheme, intimidate. Their patron spirit is thunder, and their renown is glory. I think that they already existed. They weren't a main clan, but let me check. Shadow Lords, Werewolf. Ah, okay. These were the more political and, it says manipulative, but they probably are, judging by this, they're different. Well, not really, but it seems like they're still kind of the same. They would kind of dictate groups of humans and things like that. So they did already exist. It kind of makes sense. They're probably going to be changed a lot, but their core tenets kind of align with it. Judging by the core tenets, they're going to be a group that's takes leadership roles, but solely for the purpose of guiding other people. They're going to be your planners, things like that. So cool. Awesome. Next one is the Silent Striders. Theirs is Journey, Scout, Deliver, and Sabotage. Their spirit is the Owl, and their renown is Wisdom. Let me see if they also already existed. This is another group that was not in the main book. Interesting. Okay, so this is cool. So the Silent Striders in Werewolf the Apocalypse are a group that is highly spiritual and nomadic. They also plunge deeper into the Umbra, which is, it's like this underworld where you can see the monsters and things like that are hurting Gaia, that Gaia is fighting against. So they've gone deeper into the Umbra than anybody else has. So cool. Sounds neat. Again, they weren't in the main books. Or, well, they were in the books, but they weren't in the main book. And the last one is Silver Fangs. These seem like Werewolf Ventrue. Their thing is motivate, lead, rally, and inspire. Their animal is the falcon, and their renown is honor. They seem more... well, the Shadow Lords might be more Ventrue, but the Silver Fangs are kind of similar. They more than likely are the more heroic leaders and things like that. In the old Werewolf, they're described more as just being like Ventrue, but I think given their core tenets and things like that, they're probably going to work a little bit differently, would be my guess. So yeah, that's the main tribes. So one question that I saw some people ask right off the cusp is, where is the Get of Fenris? So the Get of Fenris is another tribe that was problematic, and which was annoying to me, and I'll tell you why in a second. So the Get of Fenris is a group that is based around Norse, these Norse warriors and things like that. So they were all about strength and everything else like that. They were supposed to live these more Norse ideals. The problem is that they were, they decided that some of them should join the Nazis. Now, what happened after World War II is the rest of the Get, according to the books that were written after World War II, the rest of the Get went and killed them, all of the ones that were Nazis. But it still doesn't have the best taste in your mouth when there is an entire group that is based around who was the strongest and also joined the Nazis. That's kind of like a permanent black mark. And of course, it had to be the one that were the Norse. So they're not in here as a playable group yet. They might be later, and they might be, if they are, they're going to be very different. Yeah. If they are in here later, they are going to be very different. But my guess is that they will probably be a group that you can't play. They're probably going to be servants of the worm, meaning that they no longer, they see humanity as a blight, would be my guess. So, because in Werewolf the Apocalypse, the video game, there's a video game. Surprised the CIA didn't recruit that tribe. Yeah. I mean, I haven't read too much into the lore of the Get, but they definitely tried to pull back on them where they're like, oh, we probably shouldn't have a group that some of them join the Nazis. That's probably not a good idea. But yeah, that they unsurprisingly pulled back. So, but yeah, that's the groups that we have, at least to start with, which is awesome. All right, so let's continue down our article here. I left my water up there. That's fine. I'll go get it in a second. Tribes also have other characteristics, the first of which is pretty obvious. Patron spirit. The patron spirit is a powerful spiritual entity that bestows the support to a tribe. The sort of emblematic leader in whose name the tribe wages war against the apocalypse. In the era of apocalypse, the tribes represent a way to do something to take urgent action. Here, I am going to go grab my water. Just a second. All right. Thought it was good to go, and then I realized I left my headset across the room. Okay. All right. Hey, y'all. Okay. So, continuing down our list. All right. Werewolves usually discover the tribe to which they feel the most connected shortly after the first change. The sort of calling can take many forms, from having a Garu mentor who instructs the werewolf in the ways of the Garu to a spiritual vision, in which an avatar of the patron spirit comes to the Garu on the battlefield, or to a battlefield epiphany at a moment of the first change, when it's obvious that I am a monster, and I am going to tear those motherfuckers apart. Thank you. Some werewolves choose their tribe. Many werewolves feel that somehow their tribe chooses them. A tribe is a relationship not only with other Garu of that distinction, but also with the patron spirit itself. So, this is cool. It's also pretty accurate to what it was. The Garu are all very similar. The tribes that they identify with would be what some of them would be ones that they could join. Some of them would be more of a cultural thing. Again, that doesn't seem to be the direction that they're going with this. Literally everything is a trans metaphor. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Hey, and we love that. Trans rights. Like, change you into a fucking werewolf. Rip people apart. Go for it. Alright. Tribes also imparts a special spirituality mandated benefits and restrictions. A favor and a ban, something which the werewolf gains proficiency with from the spirit patron, as well as a vow to uphold a certain way of life or attitude. For example, a favor, Shadow Lords can conscript storm crow spirits to aid them, while as a ban, the Gale Stalkers must partake of a fresh kill daily, all based on the primal urges of their patron spirit. So this is just things. This is just like a bane, basically, is probably the best way to put it, from vampire, as well as compulsions. So that's all this is saying. Which I believe that was pretty similar to the older edition. Yeah, I would assume that they did away with cultural specifications. Vampire doesn't have it. They probably don't either. As well as the patron spirits grant the ability for the Garu to use their gifts, spiritual powers that represent the patron's spiritual goals and acumen. Most of these gifts are taught by the spirits that have something in common with the patron spirit, or might even be avatars of them. Whatever the case, invoking the gifts is effectively asking the spirit to intervene on one's behalf, and doing that requires the spirit to respect the Garu and their aims. Cool. So, you have to do these things in order to appease your spirit, in order for them to help you, is what that's saying. So cool. I mean, that's neat. The spirits thing is a new addition to the game. So it's cool that they've put that in there. Also, since it's V5 Storyteller, we can assume that it's going to be D10s with 2 different kinds of dice. So we don't know what those are going to be yet, but that's going to be my guess. All right, Renown. Garu society is greatly concerned with its own purpose. Werewolves know that they're a people of service to the enigmatic spirits, and as a result, they care a great deal for not only their own legends, but also the spirits who view them. In game terms, this is expressed as renown. And the Garu particularly revere 3 particular facets of renown: glory, honor, and wisdom. Yep, this is the V5. That's what this is. This is V5 Werewolf. So this was released today. And this is information about the game that is coming out hopefully soon. Yeah, the Garu are very, very spiritually driven. So if you like spiritual stuff, that is a lot of what they do. So they've always been that way, though. Werewolf has always been a game that's been very in touch with this earth spiritualism. So, alright, these virtues reflect both how a werewolf undertakes a given situation, but also the esteem in which the spirits and other werewolves hold them. A Garu with low renown may have difficulty convincing a spirit to lend them its gifts. A Garu with high renown may be courted by a pack seeking bold action against the tragedies in the world of apocalypse, or world in apocalypse, or made them find themselves undermined by bitter rivals who resent the young upstarts challenging their own legends. Renown is a double-edged sword, increasing a werewolf's ability to effect change, but painting a target upon them as someone who's able to bring about that change. That's pretty cool. A constant having to keep things in check, basically. I like that. World of Darkness is really going all out on October announcements. Yeah, it's the month of darkness. So we can look at the website here in a minute, but there's a whole thing for it. It is objectively the best month. All right. Each tribe, though their patron spirit is associated with a particular aspect of renown, for example, the Black Furies and their patron spirit of Gorgon are associated with glory, while the Ghost Council and their patron Horned Serpent are associated with wisdom. Associating renown helps establish a tribe's archetypes in game terms. But Garou can definitely earn renown outside that which is the hallmark of their tribe, allowing players to portray characters against type if they wish. That's cool. It's just more of normal World of Darkness stuff, which is trying to make it so that you can make characters that are intrinsically different from the existing cookie cutter tribal mentality. A call to action. Tribes and renown are two of the perspectives Garou bring to bear. With their animistic outlook and the world and its state, we'll share more with you here in the upcoming blogs. The question for werewolves is, if the world is dying and the people are responsible for killing it are gleefully pillaging the corpse, now what? It's the end of the world, and you're a fury-fueled monster. When will you rage? That's part of the thing with the Garou, is they rage effectively, and that's when they go into bloodthirsty kill mode. Which kind of just comes with being in Krynos form. So yeah, that is our announcement for today from World of Darkness. So let's see what they have to say about this month of darkness. Okay, so first day we had Vamptober, which is an advent calendar, it looks like. Interesting. So, and then yesterday we had the announcement for the new Hunter the Reckoning game, which my friend Vin is in. I'm super excited to see that. It's really cool. And then today was the Werewolf the Apocalypse announcement. So I guess we'll see what the rest of the 31 days has to hold. I am very hopeful that we will see more information about Werewolf. Might write some stuff for Vamptober. Hell yeah, do it. So what do y'all think of the new Werewolf the Apocalypse? The final book will have an infographic, potential BBEGs. It's also the richest persons in each state or each country. Yeah, you would be surprised. A lot of the enemies in Werewolf the Apocalypse are like logging companies, fracking groups, all sorts of things. Because for some of these, some organizations had more nefarious motives behind it. Like there's a group in, I think it's the video game, that their whole thing is that they are purposely doing this stuff to destroy the Earth. But I mean, obviously, given what they've said about the game, they're not doing it to destroy the Earth. They're doing it to just take advantage of it, basically. I love it. It makes it accessible for new players, like V5, which is one of my favorite things. Yeah, it's probably going to be more realistic. The world that they're painting, we'll see what info comes out with it about it, like what elements of the apocalypse are taking place. You know, you're pretty excited about it. You know, I love some werewolves. I know you do. It's, as I've said, so I like Vampire the Masquerade. It's one of my favorite games. I'm getting a tattoo for it. But Werewolf was always something that I was like, oh, and I missed the boat on it too. I didn't play it when I was a kid. And I was only introduced to Vampire after V5 was released. So I got into Vampire right when V5 came out. And I knew about Old Vampire from people that I knew in school and college and high school, but I never played because it didn't draw me, and the group that played it was not the nicest group of people. So we were in different groups, and so coming into Vampire later was more of a was way different for me, but it was cool. I loved getting into the universe. I loved getting into the World of Darkness universe. These are horror games, so, and I love horror games, so I'm really excited to see what other stuff they come out with a year or so after it came out. That's cool. It's cool. Yeah, so for World of Darkness, they have what are called splats. That's basically, World of Darkness is the overarching universe. The splats are Vampire, Werewolf, Hunter. They're the games that exist in it. We were told when Hunter came out that the book was going to have information about enemies that would be in upcoming games. So like, an example is wraiths. There are wraiths in the Hunter the Reckoning book as something that you can fight. Wraith used to be a game in the World of Darkness. I mean, it's called Wraith the Oblivion, which is another one that I am super excited about. Is there a website that doesn't look like terrible? No? Okay. So yeah, there's Wraith the Oblivion, which Wraith is kind of what it sounds like. You literally play a ghost. You die, and then you roll around with your other ghost friends, and you're going around the land of the dead. Well, you can also come into the modern world and affect things in the modern world, but part of it is being in the land of the dead. How Wraith would translate? I mean, it probably wouldn't be much different than it is originally. There weren't as many problematic elements with Wraith. The hardest thing with Wraith was that the way that you played it was very different, and that in Wraith you have your character, which is your Wraith, but then you also make your Shadow, which is the anti-version of yourself, and is usually played by other players. And the Shadow is supposed to be a person who will constantly sit there and not argue with you, but try to get you to like give up, give in, just give yourself over to oblivion and things like that. Because if you give yourself over to oblivion, you lose who you are and you just become this poltergeist that just exists to hurt things. No ghost Nazis. Not that I remember reading about. I'm sure that there were some in there, but Wraith is not one that is identified as being as problematic of a game. Not like Vampire and Werewolf. Granted, Wraith wasn't as big as the big games were Werewolf and Vampire. So, and then after that, I think probably Mage, and Hunter, which Mage is actually one that is probably coming out too. Mage is very different from the other World of Darkness games. So it's Mage the Awakening. Or is it the Ascension? Nope. It's the Ascension. Yep. Okay, here we go. So Mage the Ascension. Mage is very different in that in Mage you play as humans who discover that they have magical powers, and that allows them to do a lot of different stuff. It's the best way that it was described to me is it's a World of Darkness superhero game, which is not something that I particularly enjoy because I don't like larger than life characters. So more power to them. Let's see. So what other ones are there? So there was Hunter the Reckoning, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Wraith the Oblivion, Orpheus, which actually, hold on. Okay. So, there is also Orpheus, which Orpheus is a game where you play as ghost hunters. You communicate with the ghosts, and you are just a group of agents who go around trying to work with them, communicate with them, fight them, all sorts of different stuff. But I don't think so. With Orpheus, I don't think that we're going to get an Orpheus book. I think more than likely what we're going to get is a Hunter expansion that puts Orpheus in. So it's cool. I'm excited. Then there's also Changeling the Dreaming, which is where you play as changelings, which are the Fae, probably the best way to put it. Very different game, much more fantasy-esque than the other ones. And then Demon the Fallen, which was different. It was... I didn't play Demon the Fallen, and I haven't really heard too much about it. Those two games, blah, 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 blah. Set in the world darkness, blah, blah, blah. Fallen Angel, Descent upon the Guardian of Eden with Lucifer, only to be condemned to hell. Sounds like it could be cool, but it's one of the smaller splats. There was also Mummy, where you play as a mummy or one of their servants. Yeah, but the big three were Vampire, Werewolf, and Mage. So that's exactly what this is saying. Yeah, Mummy the Resurrection. Oh, there was also Vampire Dark Ages, which I think we will more than likely see eventually. But we don't know any information about it now. It's probably going to be a very large undertaking to make Dark Ages into a game, but I would assume that we're going to see it eventually. Abomination the Verb. There is... So I think what you're thinking of is part of Chronicles of Darkness. So let's see, hold on. So Chronicles of Darkness is a group that also makes games. They're different than World of Darkness. They take a different lens on things. So with Chronicles of Darkness, their big three, which it says right here: Vampire the Requiem, Hunter the Forsaken, and Mage the Awakening. Vampire the Requiem, you play as kind of a lower power vampire. Same thing with the Forsaken. You play a lower power version. And there's also what you might have been thinking of is Promethean. Promethean is where you play as it's like constructs assembled out of human parts. So like Frankenstein kind of monsters and things like that. Super limited knowledge. That's okay. I mean, the cool thing about World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness is there are so many good options for you to pick from that there's lots and lots of things that couldn't be cool. There's also Changeling the Lost, which is you're a human that escapes from the Fae. That one can be super fucked up, but it's interesting. Hunter the Vigil. It's similar to Hunter. I don't remember. I think it's lower power so in the original Hunter the Reckoning, the hunters had supernatural powers sometimes. In the new Hunter the Reckoning, that doesn't exist. So in the new Hunter the Reckoning, they're just humans. They might have some stuff that's different or some sort of blessings and things that are different, but nothing that makes them supernatural in any way. They're still just humans. So then there's Geist Sin Eater, which I've never played, but I've heard a lot of people really like. I'm guessing it's something similar to Wraith. And then Mummy the Curse, which is where you play as some of the Arisen, who are servants of the mummies. But yeah, that's the Chronicles of Darkness games. Like I said, there is lots and lots and lots of them. So something you should definitely check out. Also, I recommend checking out Drive-Thru RPG because they will just have cool sales sometimes on some of those games. And a nice thing about this is I can go to the World of Darkness rule system and let's see. Oh, this is just storyteller system thing. If you go to some of the company's pages, they'll like, here, I'll show you an example. If I go to Renegade Game Studios, for example, it will show me, what doesn't do with that one? Hang on. Nope, not Renegade. I want, no. Hold on. There you go. Okay, here we go. So, this is one of the things that's cool about Drive-Thru, is you can find all of this information like this. The thing about World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness is that they organize them a little bit differently. It's like, this is all the White Wolf products. So you have Vampire 1st Edition, 2nd Edition, Revised, 20th Anniversary Edition, the original Dark Ages Vampire, 2nd Edition Dark Ages Vampire. So there's lots of different things that you can access. There was also World of Darkness just plain, which is this, which I believe you just play as humans. It's just kind of a catch-all book for World of Darkness and existing in the World of Darkness realm. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, by the way, feel free to ask. I mean, I am not knowledgeable of all of the game systems, but I at least have some idea of most of them. Here's the demon stuff. This is one thing I love about Drive-Thru as well, is I can just find old editions of games. Like, let's say I want to play the 1st edition of Vampire the Masquerade. Okay, cool. Click. And there's all the books for the 1st edition of Vampire the Masquerade, which I believe came out in 92. '91. So yeah, Vampire's been around for a long time. They celebrated their 30th anniversary. Jeez, last year? Yeah. And when it came out, it was super different too. That's one of the things that I find really interesting about World of Darkness and Vampire and things like that, is the game was very, very different from anything that we had seen prior. So it was really, really cool to see these things come out. And it's kind of like, one of the things I appreciate about Vampire, at least nowadays, is a lot of the player base is made of these groups that are very, it's seen as a more, I don't want to say a more mature game than something like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's definitely more of like, you have to have more of a knowledge of what you're doing, because it is more narrative heavy, it is more cooperative and things like that. Plus, you don't have a lot of plot armor. You can just die in most of these. So that is nice too. Which is actually something I saw recently on when I was scrolling through the Tabletop RPG TikTok, was somebody complaining about how Dungeons and Dragons has all these changes to it, and like, maybe they didn't like the progressive changes, so they're like, oh, maybe I'll go and play Vampire the Masquerade, and it was a bunch of people from the Vampire the Masquerade group, like, community being like, no, fuck you, stay away. Because, like, no, we already kicked the bigoted assholes out. We don't want them back. Yeah, narrative driven. It is, and it is. It is very, very different, and it's something that, like, I've experienced myself when talking with people, is I'll tell them, like, I'll talk to them about how, excuse me, making a game in the World of Darkness universe and things like that, and making a campaign is extremely cooperative, and how you should sit down with your players and figure out, okay, what do we want in this game? What elements, what things do we want to touch on? Because Vampire works a lot better. Well, it has to work that way, where you have to have everybody joining in and making the game and making the universe, because so much of it is their interaction with everything else. There's not as many, they go fight monster and win and everybody in town is happy. It's a lot more politically driven and a lot more personal, which is something I've always loved about the game. Now I want to play Vampire. Actually, just watching the stuff today, I'm reading through this stuff, I'm like, I really want to play World of Darkness games. Trying to run campaigns more than like D&D, but it sure isn't built for it. Yeah, D&D isn't as built for the narrative heavy, like, politically driven games, just because it doesn't have as many things that you can affect with it. Vampire, like, most of the powers that vampires have are not combat centric. So, like, the Ventrue, they have some that are combat centric, but they have a lot that are not combat centric. So having a game that's built around those elements makes it more open for, and I would argue the dice system for Vampire the Masquerade makes it a lot better for the story that it's trying to tell. Because in the dice system for Vampire the Masquerade, you have to roll in a pool and you have to roll successes, but you also have your hunger as a vampire working against you in order to make it so you can't complete what you need to complete. Last 4 sessions, the one combat across all of them. Yeah, it sounds like ass. There's not really a whole lot of meat to the system when it comes to non-combat activities. Yeah, yeah, that is, but at the same time, Vampire is not a combat-heavy game. Like, and that is also just sheer fact of the vampires themselves. Werewolf will probably be more combat-heavy, which the dice pool system definitely can work for. But the reason why Vampire is not as combat heavy is mostly because if you get into a fight with another vampire, you are 2 glass cannons going at each other that when one of you actually lands a hit, it's going to destroy the other one. And then if you fight a human, it's like nothing. So there is a lot more of that political and social, there's more social combat than there is physical combat. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of Vampire is non-combat. And even though you eat people, it is not as heavy of a combat game, because even if you try and fight something, that's just going to draw the attention of something bigger and badder later. So it's not always in your best interest to fight. Try and run D&D like that too. Yeah, I mean, it's how I prefer to run games. I prefer to have games that are more narrative focused, and it does make it so that I'm not as drawn to things like Dungeons and Dragons, but it also makes it so, like, I can introduce people to all these new things, like, because I do have games that are very combat heavy. Like, I have Delta Green, which arguably isn't as combat heavy, it's more investigation heavy, but it does do a good job with the combat as well. But then there's straight up things like Alien, which is more built for you surviving. So most of Alien is like, can you unlock this airlock while under stress? Which is something that's really cool.
group is trying to swap over to Powered by the Apocalypse, and I'm super excited. I like Powered by the Apocalypse. I haven't played any of the games specifically myself, but I do have some understanding of the rule system. I really would like to play Apocalypse World at some point, because I think it would be a lot of fun. But I like the playbooks and everything else like that, and I like how intrinsically it can work for your characters. I also really want to try Thirsty Sword Lesbians at some point, which is also a Powered by the Apocalypse game. But yeah, that's super cool. I would love to hear about it if you end up switching over to it. Heard nothing but great things about Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Same. Yeah, I've heard fantastic things. I think the creator might be local. Oh, it's Evil Hat, which is a big producer. I'll let you know how it goes. We're trying to get some playtesting started soon. Make sure we have the basics come. Yeah, definitely. Definitely let me know. It's, it is something that I always thought was super cool, but I just haven't played myself. Yeah, I like Thirsty Sword Lesbians a lot. It's, a very cool indie game. Where's the creator from? I'm just curious. Okay, April Kit Wash. Doesn't say where she's from. Okay, well, that's fine. We're not going to go digging. But yes, I've heard amazing things about this game. I haven't played it myself yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about Thirsty Sword Lesbians. And same with, like, Powered by the Apocalypse is such a cool system because... Oh yeah, Monster of the Week uses it too. I forgot about that. Because it's so open-ended and so good that it has, like, all these games that use it. And that's really, really cool to me. I just myself haven't played any of them yet. I mostly have played Storyteller, D100, things like that. Oh, jeez. I wonder if there's a list somewhere of all of them. Yes, mini. Okay, let's see. So Apocalypse World, that's one that I definitely wanted to try. That's the original. The greatest hurdle transitioning over with your group was getting them over to the new rule system. Yeah, it can be tough. It can be a tough sell. Oh, it's on itch too. That's cool. Yeah, I like Apocalypse World. This is the original game that it was started with. Hence the name. City of Mist. That's another one I've heard good things about. That's a superhero game. Avatar Legends. Also, I've heard great things about it. Dungeon World. So I guess I have played a Powered by the Apocalypse game because I did play Dungeon World prior to knowing that Adam Koebel was a piece of shit. So, I haven't played it since. That system, but the fact that sex moves existed at all are the cool things at the system, but also it's how we're going to handle this. Yeah. It is definitely a thing that is present in the game, but I mean, you can have that discussion with your players and figure out a way that it can exist in your game if you want it to. You know, if you want that to be a part of your game, if you want to use that element of the game, by all means go for it. Just so long as you all are in agreement of how it's going to work. That's not a problem. Like that's one of the big things that I've always said with games is you sitting down with your group and figuring out what works best for you is the most important thing, because it's not going to work the best for every single table, and there should be no expectation that it does. You should never expect people to be okay with something. You should be asking them, hey, this is something I want to do. Is this cool? Like, here's a list of lines and veils, which is what Vampire the Masquerade uses, which is also originally from the BDSM community, but it works really well. This idea of, if it's something you're cool with, leave it. If it's something you're kind of okay with, put a veil over it. If it's something you're absolutely not okay with, strike through. The Urban Shadows incorporated was great. Measure the intimacy between characters, not purely sex. Role-playing is just such a brilliant core mechanic. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things I've admired about Powered by the Apocalypse, and maybe one of these days I will sit down with my Apocalypse World book and actually read through the whole damn thing and then run something. Oh, Ironsworn is too. Cult is a PBTA? Okay, I guess I have played more Powered by the Apocalypse games. I didn't know Cult was PBTA. Cult's very good too. Very, very different though than a lot of other things, and requires a lot of people who understand what's going on, or are okay with what is going on, because it is a game that hits traumas all the time. Mashed is supposed to be a great PBTA. I haven't played it myself, but is it just based off of the show? It is based off of the show. Interesting. Well, I mean, it's probably good. Cult's formatting irked you. Yeah, I mean, I could see that in the core book, but I wasn't as bothered by it just because I've read the V5 Vampire book, which is god fucking awful for making a character. It's actually one of the biggest complaints that people have with it, and the reason why there's tons and tons and tons of resources about how to make a vampire, and why they're releasing an entirely new book next year about making characters. So, Cult is a great stress system. Oh, have you looked at the core book? It's the fact that when you make a character, you have to jump through the entire fucking book, and there's not like an exact pin down of like how to do it, because games that have a good system for making characters usually include it right off the get-go. It's usually information like, here's what you can expect, here's how you make a character, here's you kind of do it as you go. Not to scare you off of V5 or anything, because they've joined with Nexus, which is kind of like D&D Beyond, but for World of Darkness and the other games that it uses, which is super cool. I haven't used it myself just because I just haven't, but it's super cool that it exists. I think I made one character in Vampire, but I'm not sure which edition it was. It would depend on what type of stats you had. But V5's character creator, it can be a little bit tough if you've never done it before, but like I said, there is lots and lots and lots of resources about how to make characters in Vampire the Masquerade. So you could there's a walkthrough video of how to do each step, and I would recommend just checking that out. Let's see, but it's why I have an everlasting love for the anti-tributary doors. Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, I would very much, if you're ever going to make a V5 character, I would say, actually we could just search how to make a Vampire Masquerade character. There should be, where is it? I think it's on their website somewhere. Well, anyway, There's lots and lots of resources for making a character in Vampire the Masquerade. Let's see. Get the VTM core book. Beginner's Guide to VPM. Blah, blah, blah. Here's your clans. You'd think it would be... Well, there are some around. I don't know if they have any official ones just yet. I know Outstar made one. Yeah, she's got this where to start video. She also has some ones that she made herself. Yeah. Oh, this is like what I was saying before too with the Vampire. They did the same thing with the clans, where they go through all of them and list out what they do, just like they did with Werewolf. Diablerie is very cool. More vampires should do it. So the thing about Diablerie in V5 is it is something that you can do, but and it's kind of like where that murder hobo thing comes in. It's something you can do, but if you do it a lot, you'll lose a lot of humanity, and eventually you'll just turn into a white, which is just a raving, bloodthirsty vampire that no longer has its own humanity to it or its own decision making. You are an animal. So, Josephine McAdams, LA by Night. I'll actually watch it. Is an Erika Ishii in it too? She is. She plays a Bruja. Actually, the this whole thing has some of the characters in it. So there she is, right there. Diablerie is all like sustainable hunting. Very cool and good comparatively. Yeah. I feel it. It is one of those things that's a great story element. It's not something you should seek to do all the time though, because I know from my point of view as a storyteller, if I have a character who's trying to do that, that is a big no-no for a lot of vampire society. So unless you're doing it under the guise of like a blood hunt or something, you're probably going to get in a lot of trouble and probably going to get dead. Of course, Erika, she plays a Bruja. Yeah. She plays Annabelle, who's a Bruja. Your first character, Diablo, is somebody who was a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot. Vampires should also eat the entire human rather than drinking some blood for sustainability reasons. Waste not, want not. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to a vampire clan that you might be interested in. So, these are the Nagaraja. Nagaraja are part of the Hekata, which is back here. Oops. Oops. Oh, duh, I just had it right here. Okay, part of the Hekata. The Hekata are all of the clans of death put together, and they join forces in what's called the family reunion. But there are lore sheets so you can play the individual clans within them. So if you are a Nagaraja, the Nagaraja gets sustainability not only from drinking blood, but also eating flesh. So that's what they do. They also have some other cool elements to them, but that's one of the big things about them. To be honest, if I could, I would love if my thin blood could Diablerize a Tremere. That doesn't surprise me at all. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, maybe it'll happen. You can tell Huddy that's something you want to try and do. I don't know. Oh, wait, I probably shouldn't say that. Moppy. Hey, what does that mean? I mean, come on, let's be real. You definitely were going to find a way to be a Tremere. Diablerize every Tremere. Actually, for LA by Night, there is a thin blood that Diablerizes a Tremere. Funny enough. Eat your way back to being Kane. I love the Thin Bloods. I think that they're super cool. I also don't think my Thin Blood would try and eat people or eat another vampire. But I love Thin Bloods. I think they're fucking awesome. I love the different things that they have and bring to the game. Oh, looks like he's up there too. Alex Ward. But yeah. So, this was cool going over the World of Darkness stuff. I liked this a lot. Close out of my other items here. I do really, really appreciate that they put this kind of stuff out there, because until the player guide comes out, it is kind of difficult to tell people like, hey, like, oh, you really like this? Or like, let's say you want to be like, you know, like the judge, like characters are the ones that go around and do the discipline and stuff like that. You want to be that clan. That means you want to be the Banu Hakim. Like, that's really cool. Okay, go pick up the Anarch book. And that's the only clan that's in there. So it will be nice to have a book that has all of the clans in one single book that people can have access to. That will be really nice. Now, granted, they might add minor clans later, like the Kia Seed and things like that, but off the start for V5, I think it will be really nice to have that accessible. Camarilla book, there. Thank you. I thought they were Anarch book. Which ones are in the Anarch book, then? Is that the La Sombra? Or are they in Chicago by Night? No. The Ministry is in there. In the Anarch book. That's right. The La Sombra are in Chicago. That's right. But yes, I am also very excited for that book. I know it was supposed to be slated for this year's release, but they had to push it back till Q2 of next year. So soon, hopefully soon, we will get our book with all of the clans in it. I think they're dealing with a lot with the releases. Like, Hunter just hit the books, and Hunter's really cool, but Hunter only has the one book, so we're probably going to see other stuff start to come out, and I'm betting that part of our release for the month of Darkness is going to mention new Hunter product. I would bet that that's what we're going to see. I would venture a guess that we're also going to see some information for some Vampire Clan expansions. I think that would be cool too. I know that they're missing like the Daughters of Cacophony, and which they're more of a subgroup, but they're missing like the Kia Seed and the Gargoyles, and I think it would be cool to see some of these other clans get in there. More Tremere spells. I think that is supposed to be a thing. There is supposed to be a larger spell book coming out. At least that's what I heard. That we were supposed to see a larger spell book at some point. Shaman with the royalty free. You're pumped for that? Me too. Anything that expands the game, I'm happy about. Alright, y'all. Well, this is fun. I am happy that we started streaming on YouTube. I will probably have to do some more work as far as making it more of my own. But I very much enjoyed YouTube. It seems like a lot easier of a platform to get up and going on. But yeah, if you all want to, throw me a subscribe here on YouTube. It's free. It also helps me to get towards, so I need to get 1,000 subscriptions, and after that I'll be able to be added into basically their affiliate status and things like that. So please go and do that. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll probably, I know that we were going to talk about Mothership, so we'll probably do that tomorrow. Talk about Mothership, and then for Wednesday, we'll do our normal workshop Wednesday thing and either make something or help somebody else make something. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the well wishes. All right, y'all. I am going to go ahead and throw us on the going away screen, but there's not really a raid mechanic in this, which is okay. So, y'all have a great rest of your night. Thanks for coming.